For the recording, this is round 2 of Fight Night 2. We have Lilia versus Bronson 11. Looks like Lilia's won the die roll, both players keeping 7. It's Brennan's B-Day, give him the win. Yeah, I don't know how Brennan feels about birthdays, but it is Lilia's birthday, so if everyone wants to put something in chat and make him feel embarrassed, I will not object. But also, like, no bullying. Alright, looks like we've got a nice and easy turn 1 ponder. No shuffle. Alright. I should probably reveal. Bronson has revealed Lutri as a companion, and Lilia has revealed a Lurrus. So we've got some kind of blue Lurrus deck, which is almost certainly Breach, and some kind of blue and black Lutri deck, which is almost certainly Grixis. But, you know, maybe we'll be surprised. Hey Ebenezer, how's it going? Right, so following the ponder, we've got a Dread Fugue looking to clear the way. It's revealing an expressive iteration, a daze, a trop, counterspell, badlands, sea, Strix. So a bit of a land-heavy hand here for Nathan. Probably hoping that EI bails him out. And the Strix puts on a little bit of damage. See what Brennan takes with the Dread Fugue here. Sahar has his room set to buddies only. I mean, you can just add him as a buddy. God damn it, Sahar. All good? Alright. Thanks for letting me know, Emerald. Moto's not that hard. Alright, so the Dread Feud took a counterspell. Nathan's playing Strix, which is getting spell snared, which looks like it's getting either dazed or not. Is going to protect the Strix. So the daze is gone now. And we have a Watery Grave and a Strix versus 3 lands. Brennan's got 4 cards. Nathan's got 6, at least 2 of which are lands, or 3 of them. Can we see the revealed hand from Cleave? I can't show it on screen because Moto's really bad with revealed hands when you're a spectator. But it had an EI and some lands. Yeah, like the only way to make discard spells easy for viewing is to be able to see both players' hands at all points in time. Just with how the discard spells are coded, I think Thoughtseize reveals, and that might work for players, for viewers rather. So Brennan's gone for an EOT Intuition against an Inquisition and another Nethergoth. He's got LED, Savine's Breach. So if Nathan has nothing, he's dead. So we'll see what happens here. It is possible that Brennan doesn't go for it here. He's been given LED off the Intuition, and he would have to discard his whole hand in order to cast Savine's. And he is currently missing something to fill his graveyard. So he's going to have to cast LED and then Intuition as his 6. Might not just be dead, actually. And at the very least, it's possible Brennan waits here just because he isn't under that much pressure. But obviously, the fact that Nathan has a bunch more interaction that he might draw into might see him go for something here. Alright. So LED can cast the Intuition to get Brain Freeze. Then it should be enough. It certainly looks like it's going to be enough. So assuming Nathan doesn't have anything, he is just dead here. And it'll be a matter of how much clock he can eat from Brennan in order to see the full deck with Brain Freeze versus Nathan's deck getting flipped up with Brain Freeze. Alright, so end of turn Intuition, untap kill you. Pretty classic breach line here. Nathan's Grixis deck had quite a lot of interaction. There was an Inquisition, a Daze, and a Counterspell, but it just got ripped apart. And that's kind of how this matchup goes. One person is usually very, very slightly ahead, and then someone will just be dead. Like, the Grixis player will suddenly be able to flip a Tameo or, you know, stick a frog, and the game will just be over in 2 turns. So game 1 goes to Brennan on Breach. This is an interesting matchup to sideboard for both players. They both have a lot more options than it would seem at first glance, but a lot of those options aren't necessary to be bringing in. So I am going to be interested to see how they both side. See if anyone has reported. No one's dead in 9 minutes. That's good to hear. Although in saying that, Nathan did die in 8 minutes. Alright, game 2. Unsurprisingly, both players are going to re-reveal their companion. Considering they both spent 3 points, I think it's pretty unlikely that either of them will have broken it. Nathan's going down to 6, and Brennan is keeping 7. Alright, let's see what happens here. So really he wants... well, that's pretty good. He wants some amount of graveyard interaction, some amount of pressure, and some amount of interaction. And getting the right mix of everything is decently hard. And Brennan's going to have to fight through, you know, a decent amount of it. He can't just ignore all of the threats, although he can ignore things like Baleful Strix. He can't ignore some pieces of graveyard interaction. But Brennan's Probe sees a Lorien, a Badlands, a Psychic Frog, and a Drown in the Lock. So he has the interaction in the Drown in the Lock. He has the Graveyard Hate in the Vacuum, and he has the pressure in Psychic Frog. So this is pretty much nutter butters for a Mulder 6. If the Psychic Frog lives, I think the game's probably over. And if the frog dies, we will continue playing Magic. Brennan just going to go find a C with his Lorien. And it looks like a Priz ending. Yeah. So if Nathan drew exactly a Daze or a Force, no. Okay, Frog's dead. So now it's Vacuum some cards versus some cards. Pretty classic for the Breach Grixis matchup. Now, the Breach deck does have a decent amount of threats in its creature base. A lot of the cards have some amount of utility, like Tamio drawing you extra cards and Darcy helping you see cards. So it's possible that because Nathan's hand is a little light on interaction, Brennan might be able to stick a threat or two. And we're drowning a Thoughtseize. Okay. So he's got something he wants to protect. Portent. Hell yeah. We love Portent. That's one of my favorite cards in Highlander. It doesn't see nearly enough play. Kids at home, try Portent. It's usually better than Consider by this much. Alright, Nathan binning a misstep with a Surveil land there. And so now it's 3 cards in a vacuum versus 5 cards. I mean, I would currently give the edge to Nathan, but it's not by a dramatic amount. Like, it's still pretty close to 50-50 here. Swamp Cycle, Water Grave, go. Okay. And Brennan just going to keep spinning some wheels. Nathan revealed a Lorien with that Urza's Bauble. That's a bit spooky, because he might be incentivized to just jam that. And Brennan finally finding an answer to Ghost Vacuum. Obviously this has to resolve. Okay. So now it's 2 cards versus 4 cards. Both players have a decent amount of mana. And there is no graveyard hate in play anymore. Still probably 50-50-ish. Nathan presumably getting a Sanctuary or an Island and going for Lorien here. And just hoping this resolves. It does. Okay. Well, shields are about as down as they can get. Is he dead? Might be dead. Nope, more wheel spinning. Alright. It's going to be a fair amount of this. Both players hoping to jockey a card advantage and board state positioning. And really, this is the board state, oddly enough, that both players want. Nathan wants to have access to a lot of mana. Brennan wants to have access to a lot of mana. They kind of both... I mean, Nathan would prefer to have like a Gurmag Angler in play, but at the very least he would prefer if Brennan didn't have, you know, a Darcy and a Frog in play, for example. We're going to flip a Tamio and threaten to ulti it in 3 turns. That's big game. Well, Bronson is now under an actual clock. If Tamio ultimates, he's dead. It's as simple as that. And if it doesn't, then we go back. Alright, 3 cards versus 5. This is an Eyeball or a Lutri? An Ashiok. Well, Ashiok turns off Intuition. Might mill a combo piece. Milled Breach. So Brennan does not have access to Underworld Breach anymore. So now he has to win a normal Lurrus game through an Ashiok. So step 1 is red blasting Ashiok, if he has one. Step 2 is playing some amount of stuff. And then step 3, maybe profit. I would say with that mill, the null rod doesn't matter too much. We already lost the bauble. I would say with that mill and that exile, even though Nathan has 1 card in hand and hasn't bought Lutri yet, I think he's probably at about 65. Maybe more. I mean, if Ashok can just mill like 4 threats, that wins this game. Heat, Spell Snare, some lands, nothing of value. Brennan's got a Lurrus in hand. Oh, there is an eyeball. Okay. Well, that will end the game quite quickly. So Brennan needs an answer for eyeball, an answer for Ashok, and to win a fair game of Magic. It's not looking great. But if you're a Grixis fan, it's looking great. Just playing into Lilia's plan of milling their library out. Yeah, I mean, it's possible that the 7 locked points deck has found 4 spare points for Vass's Oracle. Maybe they're doing something crazy. Maybe Brennan's just playing 14 points. So Dreams is going to take the Lutri and exile the Troll. And then we still have to beat an eyeball and some other stuff. Okay, Rip Apart deals with the Ashok. So it's an eyeball. This is not a 2-turn clock, it's a 3-turn clock. It'll be 7 and then 9. Although it is entirely possible that we manifest a creature with more than 2 power, which would end the game. I mean, Lily is going to have to pull out something amazing this turn. And I don't know what outs he may or may not have, but it's not many. Okay. Drown on Oculus is a step in the right direction. And if these manifests are spells and they're just 2/2s, might be enough. We might be able to play, you know, a 3/3 and stem the bleeding. Another 3-turn clock. It doesn't look like there are creatures under there. Draws Reanimate for Oculus. That's a big deal. Can't even rip a Barraquiff to stabilize, yeah. I mean, Lurrus has lifelink. I believe she is the only card that has lifelink that they play. Alright, Nathan closes that one out. Combination of a fair amount of interaction and an Ashok that milled Breach was all pretty backbreaking. It was kind of just a random threat would win the game once we got to that late game state. So we're going to go into game 3. Brennan's going to be on the play this time. But for the most part, it appears that they've both boarded quite heavily and have access to a fair amount of stack interaction for each other. So let's see what happens as we go into game 3. Looks like Brennan's deciding on his 7. Unsurprisingly, both players have once again chosen to reveal a companion. Clock shouldn't be an issue here. 17 minutes to 15. Looks like Brennan's keeping 7 and Nathan has gone to 6. Okay. It's not a great matchup to be mulliganing in, but at the same time, I think there's a lot of sort of stuff that can happen to both players. Alright, so turn 1 Ponder versus turn 1 Nothing. Surprised to not have seen a cantrip yet. Brennan's probably got a decent amount of interaction. I guess we might find out. So Duress on the stack from Nathan. It resolves, it reveals Lorien, Rip Apart, Pres Ending, Demonic Council, Heat, Reb. Yeah, so a very reactive hand. I'm curious to see what Nathan will take. I think, depending on what he takes with Duress, we'll probably have a decent amount of information about his hand. Because a lot of the removal spells in Brennan's hand, the Rip Apart, the Pres Ending, the Heat, and the Blast, they're all conditional in some way. And so depending on what threat Nathan's going to try and stick, we'll see what card he takes with the Duress here. Takes a Reb, sure. So he's willing to fight on the stack and he's willing to lose his first couple of permanents to removal spells. I think that's reasonable. Reb is the easiest card to trade up with out of all of those. And he's going to cycle the Lorien that we knew about and gets a Tundra. So both players decently perfect mana here. So now it's going to be a bit of a race for Brennan to find either a threat or some interaction to get more information. And Nathan needs to find time to stick a threat that hopefully dodges some of the removal. So we'll see. Kicked Dread Feud, getting Mental Misstepped. As a 3 mana trade, that's a big deal. That's a huge deal. 3 mana versus 2 life. Oof. Which doorway are you going to take? Okay. I mean, the hearse is kind of fine. I mean, it'll tag the Brain Freeze, but Brennan can blow it up. And in an abstract sense, Brennan's companion is better. Like, assuming most things are at relative parity, Lurrus will win a game far better than Lutri will. So whether or not that's how this game goes kind of depends on when and how Nathan applies pressure. So, for example, he started with the hearse. It might blow up. There might be a stack fight here. But he still isn't presenting any power at the moment. And so they're just going to be trading cards back and forth for a bit here. But if they both hit, 5-6 lands, Lurrus will win. Assuming other things are relatively equal. In this spot, Oculus plus a 2/2 is not quite equal to 0 non-land permanents. It's close, but I think 7 power is a little bit more than 0. So Brennan's going to need a response right now. He does not have Delirium for the heat that we know about. And he's lost the Reb. So it's going to have to be the Priz ending to deal with the eyeball. And it's getting forced pitching force. Well, 1 card plus eyeball versus 4 cards. Still not a 2-turn clock, 7 plus 9. But Brennan did notably lose the brain freeze. So he probably doesn't have anywhere near as much equity as he normally would to just punk the game out. Nathan picking up Lutri, hoping to ride this board state. The fact that the Priz ending didn't resolve is almost certainly going to decide this game at this point. Because like even if Brennan kills the Oculus now, the difference between 4 power and 2 power is just enormous. Finds a Reb, cleans up the eyeball, dead in 3 turns. Less if either of these manifests are creatures. Probably about 80-20, I would say, in Bronson's favor here. Can still flash in Lutri for clock? Yeah, absolutely. That is... I mean, Lutri and Lurrus are both 6 mana 3/2s. You know. The Bone Man... I think there's 1 creature in a graveyard. It's like just the eyeball. And it doesn't actually change the clock because it's still 2 power. I believe this is presenting lethal. End step the eyeball, get a manifest. Yeah, there's definitely a timing where you can get a manifest out of Emperor Oculus. But it's not an intuitive interaction, those two. Because most of the time, reanimating something is like kind of just easy to do. Yeah, bashing for 5 is going to be lethal if the Emperor gets to untap. If I remember Brennan's hand correctly, he does still have an answer to the Bone Man. And in an Unholy Heat, maybe? And Nathan's hand is Lutri plus something. But it's not a force, because both forces are gone. So it's possible that Brennan can stabilize. He's not going to be able to race. Like, he lost the Brainstorm, so he can't do a combo race. However, if he can keep the board a little bit cleaner and start trading resources, it's possible he can get a Lutri down and bail himself out. And I think that's currently his out. Getting attacked for 2 down to 5. And this turn we would be dead to Lutri. It's firing off an EI. That's getting Reb. That's probably going to be it. And Brennan says, GG's, GG's. So Nathan Whalen on Grixis Lutri wins 2-1 versus Brennan Crawford on Lurrus Breach. And that is round 2.